Hi everyone, it's Cassie Rachelle. So you know I've got my YouTube channel and it's all about wellness, DIY, and adventure. So of course, the Nabali Adventure Podcast lives here. Now, it was Risky Witness. You've seen us called Nabalis Abroad, but we're Nabali's Adventure now. So we want to invite you to subscribe to the page, listen to season 1. It's audio only, which isn't bad because season 2 is audio and video. So go ahead and binge on season 1. Season 2 is coming and it's going to be fantastic. I love it here. Okay. I don't know what else to say. We're all done now. Also, not sponsored by Target. I just like them. Doop 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 doop. Risky witness. Doop 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 doop. Risky witness.
Hey guys.
Hey, what up?
Welcome to the very first episode of
That's
Risky
right.
Witness.
Number one,
numero uno. This is Rafiq Nabali.
I'm Rachelle of the Nabalis Abroad.
Okay.
But you gotta hit them with your other names. RJ.
Some of you know me by RJ.
Young Frugal.
One Hand Jimmy.
Fix it, Jimmy.
Left Hand Louie. Top Lock Louie. These are all nicknames I've given to myself. That is not what we're here about today. Risky Witness. This is our opportunity to kind of talk about our journey and our experiences.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, we've done a lot of crazy stuff in our life.
I don't know. I don't always think of it as crazy, but I think it definitely falls under the category of risky. I think both as individuals and as a couple, because
Absolutely.
Before you, I was already like this.
Yeah, I was doing some risky stuff as well.
Yeah, you were.
But yeah, I mean, the current risky thing that we're in the middle of is in 2020, my wife and I packed up our house in Georgia and moved to the beautiful island of Haiti.
Haiti.
We just celebrated our 1-year anniversary of living in Haiti. And
this is not a vacation, people.
Yeah,
we live here.
And since we've been here, we've seen a whole lot. And I think this is a great medium for us to share some of that stuff and really just talk about what it's like to trust God in uncomfortable situations.
Yeah. I think for me, one of the things that makes me most uncomfortable is not being sure how things will turn out.
Yeah,
like the uncertainty can give me anxiety. But, there's probably nothing you're going to do in your life that won't come without a certain amount of risk.
Absolutely.
Now, whether you're moving to another country or you're like changing careers or you decide to have a baby or not to have a baby, there's lots of risk involved in life, period.
Being here has been interesting specifically for me. I am not Haitian by any descent, so I don't speak Creole, and I am constantly left in situations where things get weird. So
Don't act like you've been abandoned, okay? Left in situations.
So the other day, I was out in the side field taking care of our goats. We live next to a rather large field where it's kind of like a community area where our goats can kind of roam and eat grass and stuff like that.
People also play soccer there. Like little kids will play soccer for fun, but there'll also be tournaments there of like little league teams, and people will, because we're close to there's a lot of fishermen around us, so people will like mend their sails and make their sails out in this field. It's everybody's space.
It's just like a community parking lot that has grass. Everybody can do stuff in there. So the other day I was tying up my goats there, and one of the people that we've met here, he comes walking up to me.
Yeah, he's done like some odd jobs. He's come through and helped with specific jobs in the yard. He's a day laborer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he came up to me with his small child, and he was like...
She might have been like 9.
9, and he's like, petit moi, which means, my child. But he proceeds to push his child into me, as in like... embrace her now.
Yeah.
And
in the time of COVID, I just can't get with it.
Even if it wasn't COVID, I don't know what's going on. Because I was like, do you want me to hug her? To like I don't know, give her dap?
Turn her around?
And it was like uncomfortably pushing. Like imagine someone pressing their child against your chest, as in like, I want you to take her. Take her.
But if you're Haitian, or like Central South American, you know that we greet by kissing on the cheek. That's the customary traditional way of greeting people. That's the respectable thing to do. However, in the time of COVID, that ain't it. My whole family's transferred over to dabs.
I know that's how the greeting goes, like since being married to you and all this experiencing, but still I was just like, I don't really know your child like that. I don't even know you like that. So like, I'm just not gonna. So I resorted to a light pat on the shoulder, and I'm like, "Hello, small child. How are you?"
Well, I saw their interaction because I was further away tying up another goat, and I was just like, "Oh no, here he comes with a small person I don't know to push up against me." And so as they were approaching, I had already been like, "Hey, what's going on?" from afar. Like, "Is that your kid?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Oh, that's so nice. What's your name, honey?" From way over there. And he told me your name. And then I was like, "Okay, it's nice to meet you. I can't touch you because the goat ropes are dirty. But hey, what's going on?" Absolutely a cop-out. I'd do it again.
So one of the questions that we get a lot is, why do we decide to move to Haiti? Mm-hmm. And you might be listening to this now, and that's probably the first question that came to your mind.
And we want to encourage you, if you have your own questions, we want to hear them and respond to them, whether it's Instagram or Facebook, our individual accounts, our couple account. If you know us and you just want to send us a question on WhatsApp, we're open to it. The question that we received was, why did you decide to move to Haiti? I don't know, I guess one way to explain it, the short version, is we didn't decide. As individuals and as a couple, we gave our will to God a while ago. And so as we were getting to a place of transition, Elise was up, Boo was about to graduate. Mm-hmm. Sort of like, all right, God, what do you want us to do now? Do you want us to stay in Georgia? Do you want us to stay in this house in Georgia? Where do you want us to go? And so as we were asking God and praying and fasting and like really, really trying to be open and sensitive to the Holy Spirit, we noticed that God was just closing doors. And as he was closing some doors, he was also opening other doors. And so...
And I feel like that's always like a really good sign of, you know, what God is trying to do in your life. And just my personal experiences, there's been stuff that I've really tried to make happen, you know, for somebody else or for myself. And you'll notice just like it becomes impossible. Like every time you try, it keeps failing. It keeps, you know, falling apart. And I think sometimes that can be a result of the fact this is not God's will for you.
Yeah, sometimes people are trying to force things.
Yeah, and other times that conflict can be evidence that it is God's will for you. But I think there's a difference. Like you can typically tell like, okay, is this failing 100% completely, or is it difficult than I expected it to be? Yeah. Am I learning to rely on God more because of the difficulty? Mm-hmm. So in this experience, I definitely felt like God was closing the other doors of options that we had. I think at one point we were like, you know, are we gonna, you know, move to the country? Like, because we were in Georgia at the time, or in a more country place.
And all those riots were happening so close to where we lived, and we were like, man, if we lived a little further out, there'd be less to worry about here. But I think sometimes, you know, those movies where somebody's like in a heist and they have someone leading them from a van on a computer who's like, go left, go right. And just like they're opening the specific doors you need to go through. Mm-hmm. That was kind of the experience for us. Yeah. The opportunity opened up for us to move into a new build in Haiti. The house was under construction, and it was sort of like, do you want it to make a place for you here? This is a question we could actually do a whole podcast or 2 episode about. So this is just the short answer for why we decided to move to Haiti. God decided for us. We were obedient.
So life is filled with risk, whether we know it or not. As humans, we're constantly making decisions that we're kind of rolling the dice on. When you choose a new job, a new significant other, you know, a new career path, even a new house, you are making a decision not fully knowing what the future is going to be. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that form of risk is also applied in faith. And that's something that we know really well.
So today we are talking about, kind of in the same vein of like, why did you decide to move to Haiti? Just that opening stuff. The question is, how did we get here? And we're going to talk about the physical logistics. We kind of talked about the spiritual step of making the decision to come here, but how did we physically get here? We're going to share some of those details with you today and give you all the business.
Yeah, strap in your seatbelts because it was a wild ride. So take us back.
Jesus, it was a lot.
All the way to June 2020,
the year of all years.
Year of all years? Is that how we're calling it now?
Can you say 2020 without eliciting an emotional response from people anymore?
Yeah, it was something else.
It really was. So we were in 2020, the year of something else, and I had quit my job. I was hair growing, skin glowing, everything flowing. I was baking, gardening, doing meditation,
this
dancing,
was the best
stretching.
time of my life.
It was the best time of my life. Good.
It was. I know the pandemic was rough for a lot of people, and I'm not trying to take that from anyone, but I remember during this time period, reading articles and hearing about a lot of people were getting divorced and having like really hard times. And I remember turning to you one day and I was like, babe, we've been in lockdown for like 2 months and I still like you very much.
And I was like, I still like you too.
Yeah. So it was like, I think the lockdown really helped us to grow. We were still in the first year of our marriage. So I feel like the lockdown just helped facilitate our strong communication, spending time together, all that stuff. I think maybe without the lockdown, we would have been busier. I would have been doing more. You would have been doing more.
Yeah.
And that first year could have been rougher than it needed to be.
On our marriage,
Yeah. So really kind of grateful for that, seeing the goodness in that.
Yeah.
But during that time, I was in school. I was actually working on the final project for my bachelor's degree, which is my film that I'm about to showcase now. Super excited about.
Come on.
I think when everything started around March, that was around the time when we started like walking and running every morning. And we would also get up at about 6 o'clock and we would spend some time in prayer and just kind of like seeking God's voice.
And then my life was interrupted. So just as everything was making sense and everything was flowing, all of a sudden it felt like our lives were very much interrupted by God's request that we consider moving to a whole different country and changing our lives entirely.
So I think it's important to mention there was already a desire kind of to be somewhere else, not necessarily outside of Georgia, because we love Georgia, like.
Yeah.
But I think when all the like kind of protests and stuff happened, especially around June, we were kind of in this place where it was like, I mean, the Wendy's that caught on fire was like right down the street from where we lived.
Yeah.
And I remember watching that on television, but at the time we were actually on vacation in Florida. So we were like, oh snap, that was like really close to us. And when we finally got back to Georgia, we drove down the street and saw it was really close to us. And we started to just feel like, man, it's getting really chaotic here. There's a lot of stuff. We already didn't live in the best neighborhood. There was a couple of times we heard like gunshots. I think
I like neighbor. Point.
It was good, but
was cute.
A neighbor two houses down for us got robbed.
It was just a little gangster.
A little gangster.
It was a touch.
So we were already kind of in a place to like, all right, God, well, now I'm finishing school. Where do you want us to go? What do you want us to do next? We were thinking, the possibility of moving out to the country, starting a new kind of like, being in a place where we can grow our own food and, kind of have a little bit more freedom.
Let me be clear. I'm all about that tiny house life. I have always wanted it, mostly for the space that it would provide on the outside, because I was spending much of my days outside anyway, or I wanted to be close to lots of windows or just be able to see nature. And I was into gardening and plants. So the thought of getting like a little tiny house that we could move from place to place or something that we could afford, I was in love with the idea. It was very romantic to me.
Yeah.
Thinking back on it now, I don't think we could have afforded it.
No. But I felt like we thought we could.
Yeah, we were delusional.
There was more opportunities that could have opened up. When I graduated, I could, spend more time working. And
yeah, at that time I was considering doing more online work, consulting and teaching on virtual school. My parents were the one who offered us the opportunity. My first thought was, hell no, I'm not going to go live with my parents. That's an absolute no for me. That's a cute idea for you. Guys, enjoy that. Go ahead and retire in Haiti. But as for me and my house, we going to stay in the States. But I felt very, very convicted that God wanted me to at least consider the idea.
I actually had been to Haiti before. In 2018, Rachelle and I visited. And I thought it was a beautiful place. Great. Really nice. Don't plan on living there. I don't want to live there, especially because I was at a place where I was about to graduate film school. I had so many plans. I wanted to work for Tyler Perry Studios and, continue to kind of grow in my film industry career. We just kind of continued to pray about it. And I think for a couple months, we were just like at it, really trying to get God's perspective on this. I believe God speaks in many different ways. Sometimes it's through other people. Sometimes it's through his word or a sermon, or sometimes dreams or visions or whatever. But I think those are the rare cases. But for me, I felt like the confirmation was just peace in prayer. Like when you're praying wholeheartedly about something. I remember one night, I got up at 2:00 in the morning and I prayed from 2 to 7, in the room, walking around. And I got that West Indian prayer style. So we walking around and I'm talking to God and I'm like, so show me in the Bible. Because I wanna, no, you tell me. And I'm going back and forth and just practically having this argument with God. If this is what you want me to do, you got to make it 100% clear, because I'm not about to throw, my family away. I don't have any family in Haiti. I'm not about to leave my family, leave my career, leave all this stuff for something that's just a lie. And in the midst of that, and through praying, I felt like God was saying a lot of stuff to me. One of them was just, you got to trust me. You got to trust that I know what I'm doing, and that I have everything under control. And once I got to that place, I felt like it was kind of like this just piece of yo, you're good. You can move forward. Don't worry about it. It's all right. And that was pretty groundbreaking for me.
Yeah, if you've grown up as a child of Asian immigrants, then chances are there's been a lot of fear surrounding going back to Haiti, because a lot of our parents left Haiti with fear and with the intention that the United States was going to be a much better place, that there would be money on the floor, and that all of your dreams would come true, and there's no racism, and everything is perfect.
Wait, what?
Woo, that was a lie. But there's still a lot of fear attached to Haiti itself. So I was just like, I don't see how this gonna work. Me live there, what I'm gonna do. I'm not going to even enjoy myself. It's just way too dangerous. If my parents, who are from there, didn't want to go there and now they're inviting me there, how? So I was definitely hesitant, but I was seeking God's voice about what to do.
So for those of you who are wondering what it takes to move to a whole new country, well, it's a lot. So essentially our process was, we pack up everything in our house. We need to somehow get it to Florida, and then it was going to be packed in a shipping container with Rachelle's parents, who would then ship it by boat to Haiti. And then once we get there, you would unload the boat and then bring that to wherever you need to bring your stuff to. So for us, we had to pack up pretty much our whole house into a U-Haul. But there was two different moves. There was the first one where we packed up as much stuff as we knew we wanted to go. We packed it up in a U-Haul by October, and then we drove it down. Now the second move came in December, and that was a whole nother level.
Moving was one of the hardest things I did in the year 2020.
I think it was hard for me because I definitely procrastinated a lot. Mm-hmm. And I just wasn't mentally prepared to tackle all of this stuff. I was in a really busy season in my life. I was working on the final film, trying to wrap up my classes. While all this is happening, I'm also preparing to move to a new country. So I think I put off a lot of the heavy work because I just didn't want to deal with it. And then when stuff hit the fan, and it was like getting to a point where it's like, okay, well, you need to start packing or you're going to be leaving a lot of stuff behind. It was hard trying to go through all this stuff.
Yeah, I remember the night before we moved, there was a giant box of your random papers.
All sweet papers. And I just shout out right now to my mom. I love you, Mom. I inherited my paper hoarding from you. I remember when I was in high school and I opened that cabinet that we have in the living room, the dining room, and saw that you had papers from elementary school, like on assignments that I did with grades on them from like the 3rd grade. And I was like, how is this ever going to be important in life? Who cares that I got a B on my spelling test in 4th grade? Nobody.
I actually read somewhere that immigrants tend to hoard papers because in coming here they never knew which papers would be important. So they kept them all.
That's real.
And so it's kind of a carryover from, I'm not sure how this country works. I don't want to have any issues, so I'm just going to keep them all.
Wow, that's real.
And then the children of immigrants become hardcore paper hoarders.
I too paper hoarder.
Am a paper hoarder. I'm a recovering paper hoarder. So we'll say that for the record. Learning to let go of stuff.
I'm not recovering at all. I know who I am.
Yeah, and I also know who you were because I watched you with that giant box of papers that you had hoarded, like a large size moving box full of papers, and you were trying to go through it. You know what? We have that box of papers now.
Really? Where are they?
It's in the shipping container.
No way. I want that.
Of course you want that because you're a paper hoarder.
I want to go through it. I'm not joking.
Oh my goodness. You're not going to go through it.
I'm going to go through it.
Okay. Yeah. So he's very, very busy with school and me trying to be a very good wife. I tried not to burden him with all the extra details of moving. That resulted in physically injuring my body trying to do so much moving on my own. I packed boxes and packed boxes and packed boxes and packed boxes. And by the time we needed to move, it's like, you're calling people and everybody's busy. There was one person who popped up at 2:00 in the morning one time to help.
Shout out to Robbie, yo.
Shout out to Robbie Sykes.
I really appreciate, I only knew him from working on a television pilot, and he was just really cool. And I was like, bro, can you help me out? And he showed up.
Yep, he's the only one.
It's not like he's like brolic or nothing. He was the
only one.
Like 5'7", maybe 130, 135. I'm just guessing. I'm sorry, Robbie.
He was the only one.
Off. But he showed up and he helped.
Yeah, he did. I think I don't like to think about that time too much because when I think about that time, I just think about all of the mentee bees that I had. And I call them mentee bees because they happen so often. You have to give them a nickname. I can't take credit for that term, but it was just crying. And the theme or my mantra for the move is, why does this have to be so hard? Yeah. I remember we tried to rent a car and we went back and forth for hours trying to get a car, and it was, why does it have to be so hard? I remember we would lose something and it's like, I think I packed it in a box. Which box is it in? I don't know. All the boxes are on the truck. We need to look through all the boxes again. Why does it have to be so hard? I remember it was the night before we were driving down and we didn't even know how we were going to get everything out the house. Mm-hmm. We ended up trashing a bunch of stuff, just put it on the sidewalk.
Yep.
It looked like, how do I say this? It looked like we got evicted. It looked like we got evicted or Christmas for people who love free stuff on a curb. We were actually supposed to be charged a whole bunch of money for leaving all that stuff on the curb.
It was, and that's how so there was a lot of conflict. And I think in a lot of ways, conflict can be a deterrent for one moving forward. But what's interesting when God calls you to do something is that even in the midst of conflict, there's these small little blessings. It's like, dang, thank you, God. So we put all our stuff on the curb. I thought it was
junk day
because my next door neighbor said, "Oh yeah, it's junk day. Just throw it out and just put it out front. They'll come and grab it." I found out the next morning when the junk guy pulled up. He was like, "Nah, it's not junk day." He's looking at my stuff and he's doing numbers in his head like, all right, this is about to be like he's about to charge me a whole bunch of money. So I walk up to him and was like, "Yo, bro, we thought it was junk day. It was just like, can you help me out? Blah, blah, blah." And he looks at all the stuff, and we had a lot of stuff.
Oh my God, a sidewalk full.
There has to be, definitely sidewalk full. There must have been 30 different items out there.
30? That's it? Man, sidewalk full. I said what I said.
So he looks at everything, and he's just like, you know what? It'll just be like $60 or something like that. And I was like, for real? And he's like, yeah, man, no problem. I got you. And I just gave him down like, yo, man, this is Mr. COVID. I'm like, yo, I appreciate you, homie. I appreciate you so much. You know what I'm saying? Yo, what's up, guys? This is Rafiq. Just wanted to take some time and give you guys some info. So we want to create content that really blesses our listeners and opens up their minds to this idea of risk and faith and trust in God through it all. So if there's a topic that you really want us to cover or a part of our journey here in Haiti you want to know more about, feel free to send all of your questions, comments, and suggestions to nabalis.abroad@gmail.com. If you want to know how you can support us, please keep listening, share with your friends, and rate our podcast on whatever platform you're listening from. It really helps us grow and reach more people. Thanks, and let's get back to the show. So, what was your feelings like finally driving away from the house? After all the packing, all the cleaning, all the work that we did, how did it feel for you to finally, put that thing in gear and drive away?
It was okay. I was tired at that point. I was feeling pretty triumphant because we were finally done, or at least I felt like, okay, we're finally done. The hardest part is over now. All we have to do is drive. And definitely boohoo cried a bit, by myself, let those tears gush. But that wasn't it. There were more struggles right around the bend. Just hopped on I-75 and got a flat within 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And that led to having to get a replacement rental car on one of the busiest rental seasons.
Yeah, that was difficult because it's like you got the nail in the tire and then we got there and asked for another rental car. Mind you, we have all of our stuff packed in this original rental car. So it's not just renting another car and then that's easy.
No.
That means we have to transfer all the stuff.
You say transfer like it's a download. We had to take every single item out of the car and then pack it back up in a different car. We don't know what car it's going to be.
Yeah.
And I'm on a schedule, so I'm upset that my schedule is being ruined.
Yeah.
I wanted to be home by a certain time. We were supposed to leave by a certain time. We were leaving later than we planned. At that point, I was just like, you know what? God, I'm doing what you told me to do. It is so hard. It is so difficult. I am obeying you, but I am not liking it. And I think now that I'm reflecting on it, I started to trust God a bit less. I was like, oh, okay, God, you asked me to do this, but you're going to make it a nightmare. All right, fine. I'm just going to prepare for less joy. I'm going to prepare for more difficulties, more challenges. And by the time that we did get down to Florida, I was completely burnt out of making decisions.
Yeah.
I wasn't making them anymore. Don't ask me what I want for dinner. I'm finished. Don't ask me how I want to celebrate my birthday. I actually had a birthday coming up, and I made no plans for it. And if you know me, that's incredibly uncharacteristic of me.
Absolutely.
Because I usually start a countdown 2 months out, have a birthday gift list prepared. I'll prepare an Instagram post just letting people know, here's what you can get me for my birthday. I'll do a hashtag and all that fancy jazz. And I did none of it because I started putting up walls. The part of you that needs to be vulnerable is the part of you that needs to be open. And I wasn't open anymore. I was just like, we're closed for business. We're closed for decision making. I did the hard thing. I said yes to God. I did the hard thing. I moved. I put up with all of the challenges along the way. I'm finished.
Yeah. And I remember that was difficult for me because as your husband, I'm trying to be strong for you. I'm trying to, deal with all the negativity and the conflicts that are affecting me as well. But I'm trying to keep pointing us back to Christ and pointing us back to the reason why we're doing this in the first place. Because it can be really hard when it's all easy to make the decision, but then when you're in the midst of it and conflict is happening, it's hard to remember, wait, why am I doing this again?
Absolutely.
And I felt like I had to keep us in prayer. I had to continue to pray for us. I had to continue to pray for you and just try to see the positive in the midst of it. But I gotta admit, it was difficult. I didn't understand at the time why all this stuff kept going wrong. But there was a bright side in the midst of those challenges, you know?
Yeah, I noticed that for every challenge, there was a solution.
Absolutely.
So along the way, when we had, 3 days in a row of just tough challenges, every single time we found a way out.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting, this whole concept of trusting God through situations that are uncomfortable and, although there's conflict, pushing through it, because I feel like it's a common theme even in scripture. Like you think about Moses and how God called him to go back and set the Israelites free. And when he first goes and talks to Pharaoh, that starts a whole commotion. And then Pharaoh's like, all right, now you guys are going to make bricks without straw. So it actually makes it harder.
I can imagine Moses going to the throne like, hey, can I have the people? God sent me here. And Moses is like, no. And Moses is like, wait a second.
The Pharaoh.
But God sent me here and this is supposed to be easy. No.
And it's just like, yo, now the people that he's trying to save end up turning against him.
Yep.
We see that that same situation happens with David. His path to the throne was hard. Joseph's path to being in the palace was hard. Even Daniel's experiences were hard. So it's just these constant situations where God is with you in the situation that you're in. He has called you to the situation that you're in. You're actually operating in God's will, but it's still extremely difficult. How do you stay motivated through the conflict?
Oh, man. I guess thinking on our experiences, there has to be a commitment. Yes, God, I'm obeying you, but I'm also committed to this process. And if there's that commitment there, it doesn't even depend on us, honestly, because we can't be committed to God. It has to be, God, I surrender my will to you. Take it. Keep me holding on to you, because I can't hold on to you. I'm going to lose my grip, but keep me holding on to you. And so when you key into that and you're believing that God is holding on to you, there is grace for the ups and the downs. There's grace for the, rejecting vulnerability and being open to joy, because God can bring you back from that. Like he's currently bringing me back from that. There's room. There's space for God to remind you of who he is. If you will stay committed, it's kind of like a marriage. Oh yeah. Where you're like, okay, God, you want me to marry this person? That's cool. I'm totally going to do it. And then there's a day where it's like, everything I would like you to just do seems so foreign to you. And I'm just like, wait, why is marriage so hard?
Yeah.
Why is it so hard to be with this person? But the commitment and staying here and continuing to sleep in our bed and not running home to somebody else. I'm talking about family, not
you're speaking in general
affair.
terms. I'm an incredible husband.
I'm not even speaking specifically about you, babe.
Okay,
I'm talking about marriage in general.
Yeah.
Sure. Wink. But the fact that I'm choosing to stay means that when I stay, that's when the conflict gets resolved. It can't get resolved with me leaving.
And I think that's a strong part of relationship. When you know that God is good, or even just, relationship between in a marriage. When I know you are a good wife, when I know that you love me, that you have my best interest in mind, the difficult situations, I don't define our entire relationship by that.
That's good.
Because I know who you are and what you're about.
And that's the connection to God, if I may say so, is that knowing his character and knowing that God is good. In those times when it's hard, you trust that God has your best interest at heart.
Yeah, absolutely.
That he's a good God.
And things do turn around.
Yeah, they do.
Like, so looking back in hindsight, a lot of the challenges that we went through actually turned out to be blessings. Like,
tell them how.
Okay, so when we got the nail in the tire for the rental car, I remember we had an issue before where the car that we packed previously was kind of tight. Like, we had it full of boxes.
Oh, yeah.
And then you remember that they gave us that like big old Chevy.
Toyota Tundra. We had room for everything. There's actually a little too much room.
And it actually made it easier because now one of the cars wasn't like weighed down. It was one that was like almost riding on the rims, like, because there was so much stuff in it.
Yeah.
We got to transfer some of that stuff to the other car, make it a little bit easier.
It was a much roomier drive for me.
I can see my rear view mirror now. So that was a blessing. I think that was at no additional cost.
Right. That was at no additional cost. The other thing is because we had the delay in actually leaving the house, you were able to turn around when the landlord, property management company said, hey, we have your security deposit.
Absolutely. Yeah. So our landlord or the property manager, they don't do your final security deposits via Zelle or anything like that. They have to give you a check in person. They won't even mail the check to you. So if we had left when we were supposed to leave, we would have been in Florida already. But because we had been delayed so much, he was able to reach out to me and he was like, hey, are you guys still nearby? I have your check. I'll meet you at the house. And I was like, I mean, at this point, you had just got the nail in your tire. You were at Avis. And I was like, yeah, man, I can come back. But like, that was a blessing because we needed that check.
Yeah, and it took all of that time for me to actually get another car. So by the time you came through, you helped me move everything from our teeny tiny car to our much bigger Toyota Tundra rental.
Yeah.
It worked out.
It did work out. And then we got on the road and we ate some good food. And
that fixed everything for you.
Yeah, it was great. Like, you eat a good meal and it's just like.
I was still pissed off, but you were like, I love food. Yummy, yummy, yummy. It was great. Your whole mood changed. Yeah. And watching you be so happy kind of rubbed off on me. It took me a while to decompress, but I did have a good ride down to Florida.
Yeah. Thank God for that.
If you're somebody who's struggling with, you're in a place in your life where there's lots of transition and lots of discomfort and you're trying to figure out when does it get better? How does it get better? What's wrong with me because things aren't getting better? You can do little things every day to bring joy because that's what's real. Like, you can do little things every day to bring a little bit of happiness into your life. The goal isn't to have like little bright moments of happiness. The goal is to obey God, believe in God, and go for the ride that He's destined for you. And that ride is always going to be good. Even if it doesn't feel good, it'll be good for you. Don't get discouraged. Get discouraged, fine. But God isn't letting go of you. And in the time, there's something you can do about it. But ultimately, I'm looking forward to what God is going to bring. The promise hasn't come yet for me, but I feel like the promise is on its way. I believe that the promise is on its way. And so that brings me comfort when I'm uncomfortable.